Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We decided to do something a little different on this recording, and it's actually, it's still dark, but it's in the morning.
But we're still in bed.
But we're still in bed for those of you that's important for.
Technically, it's not as we go to sleep today.
Yeah, but we are still in bed. So
it's more like a as we awaken.
I've had several topics that I've wanted to talk about, but just haven't pushed record on the phone. So I decided today, with Lex's help, that we would explore a topic before we got out of bed today. So I wanted to just put out the idea of sharing.
Let's talk about sharing. I think that's a great topic.
And, you can talk about sharing in many different ways. And so, Lex, why don't you talk about what it means for you?
Well, the first thing that I think of is kind of how I was raised, and maybe a lot of us are, to share with others, to share things with others, like when we're kids, right? And we have a brother or sister or a friend down the street or whatever, and we have a toy, and we're taught by our parents to share that thing with our friends, to share that thing with other people, or to share our food.
Well, that's good that you were taught that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure a lot of people were taught that.
Well, maybe that's the portion you want to talk about.
Yeah, okay. As you were, dear.
Well, I was just going to say, and then I think sharing has changed for me as I've gotten older, and just grown up and known myself more. And a lot of it is about, it changes the focus to not just sharing what you have physically, but sharing of yourself. And that, I think, is a little bit different, but the same. And sharing of myself, anyway, when I started really thinking about that as a different kind of sharing, was a little bit of a challenge.
And how so?
Well, it's not that I wanted to keep anybody from myself, but it was just like, first of all, I had to have the step of knowing myself and knowing what I had to share, what I had available to share, and then being willing to do it. And sometimes I felt like the challenge there was possibly setting yourself up for people not wanting what you had to share.
But you never know.
Unless you open and share. Exactly.
Put yourself out there and take that step, right?
So, yeah, exactly. So for me, that was like a whole second sort of theme of sharing as I got older and understood that it wasn't just about sharing, half of your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There was more to it than that. So that's why I like the topic of sharing and have given it thought.
Well, I think that, yes, those are good points, because I think in the bigger scheme, in the larger picture, it's almost, what's the word? I don't want to say required, but sharing, I think, really covers a whole lot of different things. And sharing of oneself, I think, allows and helps other people to understand you as an individual, me as an individual.
Right.
Even better. And I think helps create more of a sense of community, a sense of oneness, a sense of, it's interesting. I think the more that people know you you, the collective you, or the collective we, that can bring people together. At the same hand, I think maybe a fear of that could be, if somebody knows this about me, will they still, will they still want to be, associated with me? And, I think that piece is one that really, speaks to acceptance. Acceptance of oneself and acceptance of other people in their uniqueness and in their individuality.
Well, and I think that too, it does tell you if you dare, if you're brave enough to share yourself on any different level, but sharing of yourself also lets you know if you're not going to be accepted, and then you can, make that assessment about, well, maybe this isn't who I want to continue having associate with me, or who I want to continue being associated with. Does that make sense?
I think it does.
I mean, you still have your own self, and you still have to have that self-awareness and willingness to know that you put it out there, what, your sharing of yourself.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's difficult because if there isn't that acceptance, then sometimes people want to change who they are,
right?
To be accepted, and I don't know that that's necessarily what's required.
That requires a whole other lot more of assessment, self-assessment, and consideration, I think.
Well, and I also think that when that acceptance also rolls into you being your authentic self. And so if you're having to change who you are to be with people, that really probably isn't your authentic self.
I concur.
And makes it, I think, difficult. I mean, I think it's easier, I feel like, to be who you are. Not saying that, there aren't things that we all need to work on to be our best self, our higher self, and all of that. But I think, again, the more that we're able to share, probably, now that I'm thinking about this even more, our authentic self, that's really the key.
And also sometimes share a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if that's what we have to share. I mean,
Well, I think that, food has always been
top of my list.
Your forte. Something that I believe that we definitely need. But I am not the connoisseur of food that you are.
But that's a whole other topic.
But that is a whole nother topic. So, the whole sharing thing, it really kind of brought it to mind when I was thinking about, and I'm going to not try to go too political here, but the tax cuts, and I'm not going to even mention who was heading up those tax cuts, but when you really do think about it, and you look at who's getting the bulk of those tax cuts, and you talk about sharing, it really just doesn't seem as if there's a whole lot of equal sharing going on in those tax cuts. So that's one of those things where you look at who really needs what and who's making money and who's really just kind of getting by day to day, check to check, not really knowing if they're going to be able to feed their family. And that, I think, makes me sad. It makes me sad.
It's true. I think it's like, do people that come up with those policies and tax cuts or whatever, did they not learn how to share when they were a child? I mean, as basic as that,
there just really seems to be a model of concentrating wealth and money to a small percentage, and not really sharing that percentage of not the percentage, but not sharing the wealth, or taking care of everybody that's here. So, like I said, I don't want to get super political, but it does bring that to mind as I'm thinking about it. But I'll rein it back in and just say that
rein it back in, Chris. But I know that you like food is more my forte. Politics is more yours. So
politics.
I'm not surprised that it came up.
And
that's okay.
I also think that we do a good job of donating things that other people might be able to use, and I try to carry that philosophy at work as well, and be active in our community and give back to our community, as we're very fortunate. So I think that would pretty much wrap up the topic of sharing. And if I had one thing I would say to you all that are listening is, try to do more of that if you can. Every little bit counts. Nothing's ever too small. It's the thought, and it's actually the action.
Yeah.
The action. So there's those two things. So don't just think about it. Find something that resonates with you, and
share it.
And share it, and donate. Donate if you can.
Donating
if you have
is part
something.
of sharing, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Until our next podcast.
I kind of liked doing it in the morning.
Oh, we could be on to something different.
We'll
All
see
right.
you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.